Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again to the Download Queue, episode 47. We are here sounding crisper than ever. Thank you, Kyle, for the microphone recommendation. Owe you the world. We are coming at you week before the Game Awards, just a couple days away. Things are slowing down in the world. Releases are out. We get Indiana Jones tomorrow. Sorry about lying to you last week. Damn you, early access dates and Google AI searches. But hey, it's pretty good, apparently. Can't wait. This episode, something different, something special. Kyle talked about it last week. Doing a year in review for the big three: Nintendo, PlayStation, and Xbox. What they got up to this year, the highs, the lows, what we're looking forward to, where we think things are going. Just a nice walk down memory lane, It's good. With that, I'm going to toss it over to Kyle the Fish, who brought this idea up. How are you doing? Let's get this thing rolling. This is going to be a big episode. I can't wait.
I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm excited to look back. It's been a year. We've been doing this for over a year now. We started last year. Uh, so that's exciting. Now we get to sit back and look back at a whole year. I'm excited. Yeah.
That's good. Like I said, we got focusing on the main three. Would throw a PC section in here, but I don't. Steam's doing its thing. I have no idea about any of that. They're doing a console apparently now. I don't. Things are weird.
Interesting. Yeah, we're not big PC. Like, we play on PC, but that's not like our main thing. We're not like deep in the ecosystem. It's more like, yeah, we just play on PC because we can. Or we have Game Pass Ultimate.
I'll do a quick for PC. Steam screwed me that one week when I was playing Baldur's Gate 3 and I had to do my updates over and over nonstop 4 times. You get a C. Solid C for Steam. Done.
Like you're giving him a grade, a C, because of one issue.
It was a big issue. I haven't gone back since. That was our goal, was to finish Baldur's Gate 3 this year. We started January 1st. I don't think we're hitting it.
You have a month less, yeah. Ooh, you'd have to cram it in. You should try. At least try one more time. Maybe not to beat it, but at least go back to it.
We'll see. See if we fit in the holidays. Getting 4 people together in different states is also part of the challenge.
Yeah, because then Texas just stops working.
Yeah, as we've learned multiple times.
Yeah, that's funny.
Okay, so yeah, like we mentioned last week, we were going over stuff. Looking back at releases, news stories, rumors, we both kind of did individual research, have individual stuff to bring up about each as we go through, kind of chronologically here, just to keep things in a remind you of the oldest first, because we don't need to dwell on the recent stuff. I brought up, are we a good start with Nintendo? Since that's probably the least for both of us and just in general, because they have had a quiet year.
Yes. Now, real quick, I guess this is just to clarify for
Yeah.
us, but also for everyone. Do we want to end with giving it like a letter grade like you just did PC? Is that kind of our goal here? Is that a consensus? Is that just we each give our own?
We can if you want.
Okay.
I know that was in the initial, when you brought this up, there was a grading thing to it, but we do have the sort of the future outlook here to put afterthoughts on things of what's happened.
Yeah.
So,
Cool. We'll do that. Yeah, we'll see.
Nintendo, what a quiet year. It started off with, I feel a lot of hype, because at the beginning of the year, it was still people thinking new consoles coming out this year. Very quickly realized it wasn't, and this was almost like a life support year, which gives it a bad connotation, but the console's still selling. Switch is still selling bonkers. Like, they're still releasing titles, most of them remasters, but they're still making a dent in what they're doing and the spaces they're at.
Yeah, well, that's like it's funny because it's like, yeah, they did have a quiet year for sure when you compare it to years past with titles like not Echoes, that's this year. Tears of the Kingdom and the Breath of the Wild and not Galaxy, Odyssey and all the other titles, the great Switch titles that they've had, but this year didn't have that. But they did have titles like easily once every quarter, a title, sometimes even once every month. And yeah, a lot of remasters, a lot of remakes. But there were some new ones, some highlights here, Prince of Persia, Lost Crown, which is not a Nintendo game, but that's a game of the year contender for a lot of people. It's in a lot of conversations that I'm listening to. And that came to the platform, and that's pretty cool. But then on the Nintendo first party side, you get Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, which landed pretty flat, I think. But for what it was, it sounds like it's good, and it is again, it's a family friendly game. It's for multiple ages, so it's something that I'm looking to eventually buy or play maybe years from now when my kid can actually when she can play something. But the mechanics there seem cool and whatnot. But they also had earlier in the year Paper Mario and the Thousand Year Door. Uh, and stuff. And then they have Lego Horizons Adventures, a new, a whole new property, partnered with PlayStation there. So like they had a light year, but then they also did have a lot of new titles and a lot of games hit the platform. They were just like you said, it felt like life support. It definitely felt like they were stretching out the catalog to get to the next Switch next year. Uh, that Switch was probably always not coming out this year. We just assumed it was sooner than later based on like how these games are coming out. It's not like these were gonna be Switch 2 games. Like this was always gonna be the way it was coming out. Uh so yeah, like Lightyear, but more of just I don't want to say quality because like the games are good for what they are, give or take, right? But it's not the exceptional high quality bar that was set by Tears of the Kingdom and Mario Odyssey and Mario Wonder and whatnot.
Yeah, for sure. I'm curious too with their relationship now started. You brought up Lego Horizon, if anything else comes of that. I know for a lot of things, and especially when we get to the PlayStation part, a lot of the conversation with their multi-platform stuff is now towards Nintendo, which people are more accepting of because it's not a direct competitor, quote unquote, even though Nintendo's monstrously larger. But if that relationship continues in any way, or with both of them being Japanese studios, if there's a world it does go the other way for those two specifically, if we do get Splatoon on PlayStation or something wild.
Mm,
But again, that's a whole other conversation, which I don't think Nintendo needs to necessarily. They have the money. They're doing absolutely phenomenal. They're the biggest of the three. Just this year was by the numbers, and they just kind of floated around and existed, I feel.
yeah.
Uh
Well, I think that I want to touch on what you said right before. I think it's interesting thinking about what comes next out of Lego Horizons and that partnership. Because when you also look like another highlight for me is that the Switch platform also gets the majority of sports games. It has uh, not FIFA, what is it? EAFC, it has NBA 2K, it has MLB The Show 24, right? It's I think next year it's supposed to get Call of Duty, which we assume is the Switch 2, which leads me into like we're already getting sports games on there. We're getting um, a partnership already. Like, what's going to stop bigger games, other AAA games, especially third party games, from going onto the Switch platform if it can handle it, right? Like,
mhm.
we're already seeing that start to happen. But what does that mean for Switch 2 and Nintendo, right? If the Switch 2 can utilize the cloud, utilize AI for frame generation or whatever to get their Switch 2 to run AAA games like it's like Dragon Age of Edelgard, right? It, like a third party AAA game, right? If it could run that, like that's kind of insane and puts Nintendo squarely and firmly like right next to Xbox and PlayStation, right? So it's interesting. That's like my big question with the Switch 2 and Nintendo. Like, there's a lot to know. We just don't know enough, and like what we're seeing with again the parity of games just being everywhere. Like, you're telling me I could play Madden eventually on the Switch, like to go, and it runs well and plays well. Like, that's pretty cool, you know. I mean, again, it really just depends on what the Switch successor is, but we expect some type of hardware jump so it can It's gotta run Call of Duty.
To some point, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, with that, I honestly don't even think it's that much of an ask at this point. I think back to Mortal Kombat 1's the one that always sticks in my mind of when that came out on Switch. It was an online thing, but it was meme to death for how it looked. But the visuals are the only part of it I ever saw people disapprove of. I never saw stuff about it running technically bad. It just didn't look the best. Which obviously you make those sacrifices to make that happen. But yeah, if it's just a visual thing like that, I honestly don't think that's going to be too hard to do. Now, if Nintendo's actually going to do it is another question because there's things like online service that people have been begging for improvements on and to be more mainstream for years that they just refuse to do. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's the big one. Is they have some weird architecture still in place, but yeah, that's like yeah, for like Nintendo this year, no Switch 2, bad because we all and that's just the media and influence not journalists, whenever. Uh People in the industry hinting, talking about it, and people just running with it, right? It's the whole year we were waiting for it. So it's hard to knock them for that. However, it also was felt in the games too. Like it felt like we were waiting for the next console as opposed to here's the next big Nintendo title. No, they're clearly waiting for the next Switch, and that's right around the corner. Uh, with that,
yeah, because
but
there's games now that like Metroid Prime 4 made its free reveal last year, I think it was. The new Donkey Kong game, like there's stuff that people know about that they can't bring up yet because they don't want to put a Switch release on it because it is for the new console. So all of that's kind of getting pushed back now and being reformatted. The other big one I think of is on my list here, February 27th this year, they had the Pokemon Presents announce the next Pokemon game and just with 2025. Like there was nothing else. There was nothing for Switch this year, which there usually is. Historically, that event always has either something for that fall or in the spring, and they didn't have anything for the console.
hmm, I mean, yeah, that's good because that last one was not good. It didn't run well. So just get it to run on the new one well. Spend more time there. Yeah. So I would say it's just an average year. My big question again is just what is the Switch and where do we see it? Do we see it at Game Awards with all these people hyping up the Game Awards saying this is big, this is good? Is it gonna be did they get the Switch 2 announcement with a later direct to go deeper into it? When do we hear about it? But what is it? You know, what games is it gonna be able to run? That's my big question.
Mhm. Um, on my list here for Nintendo, there is some other stuff I'd like to just bring up for the year because it kind of sets where they've been at and just where their history is. February 8th this year was the 25th anniversary of the Mario Party series, which we
Mm.
got in collaboration with Mario Party Jamboree later on in the year. Again, that Pokemon Presents was on February 27th. Mario Day, March 10th. Upcoming Super Mario Brothers movie follow up was announced, untitled. Also, release dates for Thousand Year Door, like you mentioned, and Switch port for Luigi's Mansion 2 was announced. Again, more ports for the Switch just to keep games funneling into a point. April 8th, which I'm going to throw this in the bad almost. I know we kind of have disagreeing views on it based off of Xbox's side of things. For April 8th, Nintendo Network and therefore the store were closed down for the 3DS and Wii U. Again, just shuttering more of game preservation, how to access games, licensing for games, people's ownership of stuff, and just a bunch of titles disappearing from the ether, essentially. Um, there was a YouTuber I used to watch who's since been canceled since all this happened, but they went out and spent 10,000 plus dollars, whatever, and bought a version of every single digital game on the 3DS with gift cards to have saved records of all of them, and they donated them to the National Video Game History Museum. Like, it's cool that this stuff happens, but it's something that shouldn't. And for me personally, it's something I'd like to see companies put more of an effort into. It'll be brought up again with Xbox, so they did something similar this year, like I said, but I'm throwing that into the bad.
Yeah, game preservation's hard because especially the digital platform. It's one thing to like stop pressing new disc, right? it's it's another thing though to like turn off the service and then yeah, it's like deleted, right? And that's it. So it's an interesting conversation. I don't have a strong opinion, but it doesn't feel good either way.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting conversation overall preservation.
Um, May 20th this year, Nintendo acquired Shiver Entertainment, which is a relatively small name, but they were the ones who did the Switch ports for Mortal Kombat 11, Mortal Kombat 1, helped with the Switch port for Hogwarts Legacy, so they were mostly a porting studio, but Nintendo acquired them full out this year as well.
Hmm, that's interesting. That's pretty good. Makes sense.
August 19th, Nintendo Museum Direct. That is now opened, I believe, in Kyoto, if I'm not mistaken. Just a fun thing. Again, their long history, having a physical museum to celebrate that makes sense and something they would do. Uh, I have one for you. Tell me if it's a good or a bad, if we just throw it in the middle for funsies. They did release hardware, Kyle. Alarmo was revealed on October 9th. Took the world by storm.
It's in the bad one.
It's in the
I think.
bad. Yeah, $100 alarm clock. Playing your favorite Nintendo jams. Again, the last thing I would want to wake up to in the morning because I would just fall back asleep to most of the music, but weird Nintendo doing weird Nintendo things. Uh Shortly after Nintendo released their own app with Nintendo Music app. Uh you can get through Nintendo Switch Online. Again, something that a lot of people would like these soundtracks on things like Spotify or iTunes or whatever it be, but Nintendo has to do their own weird thing and make their own proprietary service for it and do weird moves. Last thing as well, we got the direct for the Donkey Kong Country expansion at Universal Studios, which isn't gaming, but still just Nintendo's reach being so much further than what people give them credit for. And if we got like a Ratchet and Clank thing at a theme park, people would be blowing up. But it's Nintendo doing it, and they're like, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like they've earned that pedigree, they've earned that respect and admiration. I feel so. They had some other key events happen this year.
Yeah, pretty quiet year overall.
So looking ahead for them, obvious number one, Switch 2, Switch successor, whatever it be. What else do we see, want? What do we see Nintendo in a year from now? Obviously the new console, but do we see them doing any innovations with their online stuff? Do we see them catching up with the times or trying to make any sort of ground in that space?
I think they have to. Call of Duty has to run on the Switch, and they have to fix their online platform to be able to communicate and crossplay with other people. I think that is something that they would want to do to not lock their own platform it, to itself when everyone is boasting about cross save and you could play Call of Duty anywhere and you could play with anyone on any platform except Switch. Nah. So I do. I think the Switch 2 will include some upgrade to their online services. The Switch is old, isn't it? Almost 10 or is it 10 plus years now? Old and they haven't touched that service. So much has changed. And yeah, I think they've just been waiting for the next console to that's what they do anyway. So I think we will see that.
Agree with that. Yeah, the Call of Duty thing is the big wrench in their plans. But I almost for that, if that has to be necessarily a them issue, or if that is an Xbox thing, because Xbox is the one making the commitment for that. Obviously, they don't have access to their online services in that sort of way, but other workarounds, whatever that be, if it is
Yeah.
putting Xbox servers for streaming on, like how we do cloud gaming, if Nintendo gets some lowered version of cloud streaming that Xbox supports on their end for stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think you will see that to some degree because they already are doing that with games anyways, specific third party games you can play through cloud on Switch. Uh, I expect to see that still, but I do think like you want your game to play locally. I think it's one thing to make the Switch do it. I think that's impressive as hell. Some of the games they're able to stream and just play. Even the games that they can play right now, even though yeah, resolution kind of is garbage. The fact that they still can play like NBA 2K is pretty crazy and pretty cool. And that just shows where they're going. You know, it's not like they're not going. It's not like they're just going to stop releasing those type of games on Switch. They're not. So, um, yeah, I just want to know what it can run. You know.
I hope it's not much later. I know there's even been more rumors this week of it being a February reveal and then early May release, very short turnaround. I hope it's put to rest sooner than later. Get the information out there, let people start forming their own opinions. It's going to do gangbusters either way. Whatever we say here doesn't matter. Like, that console is going to break records. Um,
Yeah.
we got Metroid Prime 4, like I mentioned. You were still very much on the train of hoping for the next 3D Mario game. Do you think they do anything further than that as far as first party releases go? Again, at the Switch, it was mostly on the shoulders of Breath of the Wild. If they do Metroid Prime 4 at launch or have the Mario ready by then, do you think that would be enough?
Yeah, there's definitely a game or two that are visually beautiful and amazing looking and run super smooth and well, and it's graphically like, mwah, look at our Switch, like not OLED, a QLED screen. I think they'll do something like that, not just a simple LCD or LED, whatever. But it won't be OLED on the main release. But I do think there's like two games that they'll probably have minimum that are just showing off the new Switch, especially since we all expect it to be just a Switch, but runs better, right? Like there's not another gimmick with this console like they normally have. So like, yeah, it is just going to be look at the games that look great and have great gameplay because that's what we're about. We're Nintendo, and now it looks really beautiful with that. So I think that's all. There could be more. I don't. Mario Kart's always one, but do they just do? I mean, obviously we know all the Switch games will work on the Switch too, so you have all that catalog. So I don't think you need to do terribly too much outside of that. But I think they will announce more than just like here's two, and then we'll let you know later. I think there will be like here's two, and then like in 2 months we have this one, and that we'll get a full release calendar. I think with the announcement.
I would love that. I Again, a lot of it depends on where it falls for release and how much of the year they have afterwards that we would get that. If it gets pushed to the fall of next year, I don't think it would be. It would be very much here's end of the year off with Metroid Prime or Mario, whatever that launch title is. But if that is the case, even then, 2026 is going to be wild for them.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Okay. I think that caps off Nintendo and their quiet year.
Yeah. How much did you spend playing Nintendo this year?
Hardly. Again, that's I mentioned it a few weeks back. Nintendo in general, I almost feel weird playing it. Like I have my Switch and I've maybe hooked it up to the TV less than 20 times since I got it on day one. I was there midnight
Hmm,
launch. I was the first person in our Walmart. Um
hell yeah.
like I enjoyed it for what it is, but when I'm playing stuff on the handheld, I almost feel like wasting time's a bad thing, but like I should be playing other stuff on the PlayStation or Xbox. Or like I'm not giving it a full amount of time. ADHD brain, I'm watching something on the TV too while I'm doing it. I'm not giving it a full concentration that it should. And that's why even when we started talking about the Switch 2 rumors earlier in the year, that I'm honestly up in the air if I even get the Switch 2. Depending on money and stuff, if it's just gonna be another sit around and collect dust for years, like it's gonna be a
Yeah, I could
discussion I
just
have when
wait.
it happens, yeah.
Yeah, it's another big question now. Uh, do new Switch games, do the new games coming out, do they how long do they go back? Because we did see that from Wii U to Switch, like Breath of the Wild had both. It released on both platforms. So how many titles and for how long do they go cross-platform if they do at all? That's another question I have. But yeah, no, I also didn't really spend too much time on the platform. I would try to go back to Tears of the Kingdom every now and then. I just couldn't. I just fell out too hard. I'm in a weird place. Like I stopped playing when I was exploring underground, and so it's like hard to come back into. Right, I have to just commit and kind of go down a couple quests to probably get back into it. But yeah, just didn't really play too much on the platform.
Yeah, I
But
took
we'll
it
see what's
to
next.
Michigan. I went to SummerSlam, and I restarted Breath of the Wild clear save because I never even finished that.
Mm,
And I did the plane rides. I haven't touched it since. And this past week, I just hooked it up again. Checked out my Animal Crossing village. RAP to everyone who left and all the weeds that took over my island.
that makes
And
sense.
finished
Yeah.
off the last two Mario Kart Cups from the DLC that I never went back to. But that's
Okay.
honestly it, I believe.
Yeah. No, I will say the Switch is a platform that my wife and I play quite often. We'll do sometimes Switch Sports. We bought Mario Golf. We'll do that either sitting down with the controller or we'll stand up and actually do the swinging. Um, so yeah, there's a couple of games that we do use the motion controls, and it's just I really love that versatility of the Switch. Like especially now with our daughter, like she just started walking during
Oh,
Thanksgiving. That's great. So she's running around now, all over the place. So it won't be too long, right? It's getting closer every day that she could get that Joy-Con in the hand and swing. I'm gonna have to get a Joy-Con strap though, because I know how to hold on to a controller.
that thing's going flying.
She will let it fly, yeah.
I mean, most of it, I mean, that's. I started out on Nintendo. I feel most of us did. I started out on the wrong Nintendo at the ripe age of 3, getting thrown Killer Instinct as a first game. Don't do it that
Yeah,
way.
we're not gonna play Killer Instinct, no. I'm gonna make her play Halo.
Ew.
The Master Chief Collection on the Switch too, baby.
God, get out of here.
Yeah, alright, let's get
Okay,
out of here.
let's switch. If we are doing grades, I would honestly sit at a C.
I was gonna say C or C plus because they filled it out and the games were pretty well met, right? While they weren't universally intriguing by or interesting to everyone, I think the ones they did release were solid. It filled out a catalog, and I think now when you look at the whole Switch game catalog, like pretty killer lineup, right?
Yeah, for sure. Even
But yeah,
being
definitely a light year though.
yeah, even being that life support year, they still had stuff. It wasn't as big of hits as people wanted them to be, but Thousand Year
I
Door
think if
solid.
Yeah, and I think if people weren't just like, "Hey, where's the Switch 2?" If Nintendo didn't have to resort to being like, "There will be no Switch 2 news here," every post they would post, like I feel like we probably wouldn't feel as weird about it, but we all just are waiting for what's next, so that yeah, knocks it down a little for them.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
congrats, Nintendo. Do
First
better. You
official
still
grading.
passed. C plus is passing, baby.
Me going through high school.
The
Where would you like to go to next, my friend? The blue side or the green side?
blue
The blue,
alphabetical order.
the big brain. Make sure this is set up.
And that's just how I wrote it out.
Even better. Sony.
No, no. I Yeah, I'm surprised we spent that long on Nintendo, honestly.
Yeah. Let me get stuff here. Sony had a wild year. Before we start getting into shit, what fumble and re-engagement to fumble to re-engagement to fumble to even on a notably quiet year, I think a lot of people would be okay saying, still keeping such a dominant lead and keeping fans in line and expecting and happy and excited for the future in a way I feel like a lot of other places don't get. Xbox has had a lot of years like Sony had this year, and it's just continuous negativity and tearing down and doom and gloom. But even with Sony's year they had, they're at an all-time high. The
Yeah, the
fan base is
ponies are really
excited.
strong.
The ponies are on full horsepower.
No, yeah, I think that's just almost shock and just disbelief over how almost kind of the terrible of a year PlayStation almost had. They didn't have a terrible year, but they kind of almost did in the grand scheme of things. But I think when you read between the lines, I think it's more dire than it seems. Uh, with that, they were carried by a third party this year. Their first party catalog really just didn't perform well. One of them, Concord, being a historic failure and closing a studio, the result having that studio be closed down. It just with that, and then you have like Fantasy Rebirth, great game, people are loving it, but then the studio comes out and says, that didn't make anywhere near the money they needed to. They didn't make enough, and that was for both Rebirth and Final Fantasy 16 as well, which were both platform exclusives. So to me, when I see all that, you start to see questions, and I start to get I could see people justify and being worried about what PlayStation is doing. And we all know Jim Ryan's gone. They were making a push towards multiplayer games, and I think this is the result of it. We're in the valley of, all right, they canceled all these games. Jim Ryan's gone, and now let's just coast down. And here we're at. We're in the thick of the ramifications of those decisions. And PlayStation hasn't said much. They announced Ghost of Yotei, a single player game, of course, but which is fantastic. Looks amazing. We knew Sucker Punch were working on the sequel there, but what else is coming? Like, what else do you have? We just have rumors and hints and assumptions for stuff, and we know Insomniac leak is something else. We know that we just don't know timing anymore on that, and what still is in the pipeline based on the whole shift of multiplayer. Now Jim Ryan's gone, and now we're shifting back to not only being multiplayer, 12 multiplayer games with that. So I have a lot of questions on where PlayStation goes from here. So while they had a lot of great highlights, great community events, great uh, like hardware initiatives and stuff like that, a great game in Astrobot. I see you writing that out. Um, there still was just a lot of bad. So yeah, it was like up and down all year for PlayStation. Uh, but I until they show me more, I don't think it's gonna get better. And that's just maybe I'm being a little pessimistic about it.
No, I think that's fair. It's again, like I said, I'm surprised at how the fan base hasn't turned on the quietness and just not acknowledging of studios and where they're at, which again, that's development time. That's nothing you want to rush, obviously. But how long can that last?
Yeah, we were waiting. We had a rumored showcase since June before that as well. Like, so we went a whole year, much like the Switch too. We all been waiting for the Switch. It's kind of similar here for me. It's like this whole year was dominated with it's coming, and then it didn't. It's like, oh, so they didn't have anything else this year. Helldivers came and went. That is a good though. I think Helldivers is a good. I think we should have space for games that can capture people, even if it's not forever. That's okay. But take that money you made, go make a dope update, get people back in for another 2, 3 months, right? Like that. I think that's a fine ebb and flow for a game of that scale. But I don't know financials. That's a business thing above my pay grade.
I would say Helldivers 2 is good for a different reason, and it's a reason PlayStation fans don't want to admit, but cementing themselves in the PC space for further uses and further releases going
Ah,
on. That's been the console player numbers have dramatically dropped, even close to launch. Like the PS actual numbers weren't keeping up and steadily declining. where Steam was the one that was having those record highs and the news stories were being reported on and it's doing record numbers and all this. That was the PC side.
True. That's true. Hmm.
So yeah, while you were talking there to start, I threw a couple things on here to get started with. Is I Conquered bad? Um, what a story. I feel
It's not even bad. It's just disappointing. It's just sad.
yeah. From I believe it was the
It's
January state of play that we got that first announcement with the reveal trailer and
yeah.
the cinematic opening and all this stuff, and they really cemented the weekly updates and doing episodes and all this and that. And even then, day one, the reactions were super lukewarm and people being like, "What the hell is this? Why do we want this? We're not into the multiplayer stuff. Like, what are we doing?" To then the beta coming out, which we enjoyed. We both jumped into it. We streamed it, had a good time with it for what it was, and then releasing a month later, whatever it was, to less than 300, 400 people online, and then the optimism from fans and us when we talked about it of how they turn this around, what are they going to do with it, and then to the week later of, hey, we're sunsetting this, it's gone, Firewalk is gone, this is a done project, sorry, try again later.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, and it's really crazy because like we did enjoy our time with it. I like the systems that play. It was lacking more even on. Actually, I didn't play it on full release. I just played it on the 2 beta weekends, the such. But it's funny now, like playing Marvel Rivals. It's just not that it's closer to Overwatch by far, but the team ups where in Rivals, if you choose certain heroes, they work together. Like Hela, if you have Hela and then let's say Thor, if Thor goes down, Hela can resurrect them if something happens. So there's a couple different hero pairings that work together and really affect the battle. And while that is not a direct uh, line comparison to what Concord was doing with their hero bonuses and buffs and whatnot, it added that similar a simple twist to a mechanic in a game that is already well known and well established. And I think that's what Concord was doing. It didn't land. And I think that $40 price tag to get in was what drove people away, even though it was to never have battle passes and get everything down the line. Uh, for $40, that's what Concord did. But Marvel Rivals, that's just what they're doing. It's free, but you get everything. You can buy a battle pass for $5 as well. It's super cheap. But all the heroes are there. There's not going to be any disparity between that. And it's like just two different sides right there. Again, not a same equation, but I see a similarity there. It's just interesting, right? Yeah, Concord. We still get to see the Prime secret level video as it hasn't come out for us yet. So we get one little bit of Concord before we officially send it home.
What could have been? I'm gonna correct myself fast. The first Concord look, I have it later on my notes if I paid attention, was the May state of play, not January. So it was later on in the year.
Oh yeah, it was September and then beta and then like yeah, it was like boom boom boom,
Yep.
pretty quick release and yeah, and pretty quick failure.
Um, chronologically here, going through again, that January state of play I mentioned, solid for what it was. Dave the Diver was there. That was the one we got the Death Stranding 2 on the beach. I believe the first reveal of Guitar Buddy and that weird shit going on. Still have no idea what's happening in that game. I'm sure we'll find out more this week.
Which is now a third party game?
Possibly. That's up in the air
Is
too.
it just a third party exclusivity deal, right? Kojima owns Death Stranding property outright. It's on Xbox now. Not saying that Death Stranding 2 is going to be on other platforms right away, but technically this would fall under a third party deal essentially.
Yeah. That's
Like you can't. It's Kojima's production, like right?
maybe I would say we find out this week, honestly.
Fair.
We're getting a Death Stranding 2 trailer this Thursday. And
Gameplay
probably, I would bet that
comes out
there
next
is
February.
platform logos at the end of where it's gonna be. And if Xbox isn't on there, I could expect a press thing or someone in an interview afterwards being like, "Yo, later time, whatever. This is where we're focusing," type thing. We started this journey with PlayStation. That's where our resources are at now. Talk about the future when it happens.
No, Jeff's gonna go, and one more thing, it's coming to Xbox, just like he did Indiana Jones. And one more thing, it's coming to PlayStation. It's gonna be
I
the same thing. Same. He's gonna do it both.
I was gonna make that same joke in the Xbox section for another game, and it was gonna make me real sad.
Oh,
Yeah,
don't tell me, I'm excited to see what that is.
yeah. Uh, that January showcase 2, Helldivers 2, one of the last trailers for it. Um, Silent Hill 2 remake trailer, and the short message game that came out, the free demo sort of thing that I played earlier in the year. And also was the reveal of Sonic Shadows Generations that recently launched, and the Until Dawn remake. So, a couple things in there to start out the year. Nothing groundbreaking, I would say. Last of Us 2 remaster also released beginning of the year, end of January. That's good or bad, just kind of happened. I feel people are still memeing their re-releases and everything to death.
Yeah, so many.
Um, we mentioned Helldivers 2 for good. I threw this on my list. I don't know if it should be here or Xbox, but February 22nd also was the release of Pentiment on PS5. The first salvo, to say, of the 4 Xbox titles coming over.
Remember when everyone lost their minds?
Xbox is dying.
That
Everyone's,
was so funny.
yeah. February
And little
22nd.
did I know, a PlayStation is an Xbox.
Jokes. It feels like so long ago. Obviously, it was almost a year ago to this point, but like it feels like a decade ago that happened. Like it's just been beaten over the head nonstop this entire
Yeah.
year.
And again, more third-party support for PlayStation.
Yeah. Uh,
Get carried by third party this year.
ew. Right after that, 5 days later, I put on here the bad February 27th. If we go back,
It's
that
a bad day.
was layoff of 900 employees from
Ooh.
London studio closing entirely. Layoffs at Gorilla, Insomniac, and Naughty Dog. Which again has been the running thing for this year. Um but for me really showed that people holding on to the idea of PlayStation's okay where they're at. PlayStation's okay keeping exclusives. They're okay being the number one console. This kind of threw a wrench in all that because that's your big three right there that continuously release Game of the Year nominated things, record breaking sale games, and they still can't not be affected by layoffs at the end of the day. Like, there's issues there that they're going to have to talk about eventually and where they see their growth coming from. Because that's not a sustainable model at this point in time.
Yeah, and honestly, that's kind of to me. That's more of just. It's also just the economy. Like we're gonna talk about it with Xbox. They also dealt with layoffs. I mean, then you could just go third party. How many studios dealt with layoffs this year? The industry as a whole is just dealing with layoffs, and that's just unfortunately part of a systematic issue, in my opinion. uh, there, but yeah, like we see it. I mean, even Concord failed wasn't a great game. It was just good, and it wasn't didn't do enough, and it shuts down a studio, right? But even studios that are doing well, that are releasing good games, that have, you know, players active in their games, are still seeing layoffs and such. So it doesn't matter if it's good, bad, or in the middle. It's just the bad of the industry.
For sure. Do you have anything at the beginning of the year to bring up on your side of things?
Uh, I don't remember when the Portal came out, but I would say that's bad
Throw it in the bad.
because it's just a cloud device. It's just a remote streaming device, and I think it's just I personally view it as a little bit of a money grab of just, hey, we can kind of just quickly do this thing, but not really put in the full effort. I think it has a very specific use case, especially for the price tag of 200. It was like, all right,
Fair
like
enough.
just give us the full handheld.
Eventually, PS Vita 2.
Yeah, or just every console will just be a Switch, a
Oh
handheld that could plug in.
God. Continuing third-party support, Hi-Fi Rush, second from Xbox, March 19th came out. Sea of Thieves, April 29th released, came out. Same day as Stellar Blade, which I feel, I mean, it's PlayStation exclusive still. That's been one of their highly marketed things that,
Is
for
that a
me,
third party studio though?
isn't it? Research. I feel like that, even though like so many people were holding on to that when its previous name, I forget even what that was off the top of my head, but that was like highly weighted on. Came and went and didn't quite land. I feel like people wanted to.
I feel
Uh,
like people liked it. It just didn't have like enough, you know.
Published by Sony, developed by Shift Up Corporation.
Oh yeah, I was just about to. Yeah, yeah. So there you go. Another third party.
Yeah, another. That May
That was
state of
2024 for Sony.
it was that May state of play I mentioned earlier with Concord. Um, that was our first reveal for Astrobot. I remember we're rushing home for work so we could stream that together, and I absolutely freaked out because I was so excited. Also, that day was the announcement for Ragnarok on PC. Again,
Yeah,
taking their claim in other markets that they're not used to, and
it
all
was a
that.
great thing. Great,
Yeah,
good thing.
and all that came with the. They're still doing it with the PSN required to log in or whatever, but each their own of how you want to handle that.
That was part of the. That's kind of part of the bad with Helldivers. You know, Helldivers is both good and bad. But remember, they retroactively put that in place for Helldivers and it pissed off a bunch of people. So just not a good look for them. And then they have since gone back for Helldivers. But yeah, now everything requires that.
Yeah, it's a weird
Which is
choice for.
I think, but the thing is, like Xbox does it as well. I think like Microsoft games, so I think it's fine. If you know if the game is published by that company, like they can do what they want. It's that studio's game. I think that's like, hey, guess what? You're gonna be able to play it anywhere, but you wouldn't you want your account to be tied to it so then your account can go anywhere with it, right? Like I don't know. I don't see that as that big of an issue.
No.
But I do guess if you didn't want to have that account and it forced you, I guess I get it. I just don't understand I don't see the issue. So maybe someone can enlighten me.
Yeah, I feel it's honestly mostly because it is from a platform developer. Because yeah, like I said, Xbox does it, Fortnite does it. Like, hey, make your Epic's game account, sign into your Epic's game account when you get on
Yep.
Fortnite, so everything's connected. Like, and that in part is due to Sony. I remember that being the thing with Fortnite back in the day. They were the ones to strong arm Sony into allowing crossplay to begin with, and that was their
Thank you so
workaround
much.
for it was to require the third party sign-ins to add friends and interact that way because they didn't want interactions on Xbox and those accounts. Like that in part was due to their strong-headedness and not wanting to break down those walls when that conversation was happening years ago.
Yeah. Silly.
So, uh, for Earth and the Bad, I threw in Bungie.
What a
I,
bad buy.
you have more to say on this, but I threw it in for my reason. Again, the layoffs at that studio, 220 people, and that's when that's discussion of the full takeover from Sony started, and people started digging in. And oh, if they don't reach these metrics by X time, Sony could take over full shares and just fully absolve them from what their original deal was. But that also branches out into Destiny and where that's at now and the future of what that looks like.
Yeah, which I mean, Bungie specifically, yeah, I'm not really positive fully on the where Destiny's going. I need to see a little more, and they need to kind of show us more. But it just seems like it's going to be put into a place that can be easy to maintain, as opposed to like doing some cool stuff. But that's another conversation for another time. Uh, but it does like show a lot and tell a lot about where Bungie as a whole is. With Final Shape even getting delayed, that was a big deal. And then when it finally coming out, it being really good, but then shortly after, yeah, they still get hit with layoffs. Even though they did get a great expansion that culminated a whole 10-year saga, which is just crazy. Um, but yeah, now the studio that made Halo, Destiny, now they are got taken over by Sony because their leadership again, and we know a lot from those layoffs and people being very vocal online about it. Those layoffs were not met positively at all. Um, Bungie leadership seems pretty shitty, and has been very shitty at times, and that's just a bummer for them. And now PlayStation has to step in and assume leadership, and that takes resources away from other things. So in the long run, that can be a bad, but that's yet to be seen fully there. But yeah, it's unfortunate where Bungie is at. I mean, it's unfortunate anytime someone loses kind of their independence as a and especially a studio with the renown such as Bungie. But we will see. Marathon's a big question mark as well.
Yeah, for sure. I'm curious to see what happens with because with Bungie specifically, that deal was done at a weird time, kind of how Xbox was with Bethesda. I feel where they announced Marathon. That's coming to Xbox.
Oh yeah, they already said it's multi-plat.
Yeah, but that's again Sony first party thing. Oh, it was done before the deal. Deals were made. It doesn't matter. That's still a step of getting your support in that direction and where your titles
Yeah,
go and further income.
you also get MLB The Show first party game day and date. So it's
In
not
them
something
balls.
new.
It's not.
They've been doing it for years, technically,
Yeah, it's just the people.
with a very specific game, but still, it's not nothing new, technically.
No, it's the constant moving of goalposts and what
Hmm.
counts as a proper Sony first party game. Oh, it's not this. It's not this. It's not from one of our
Well, it's
teams.
just baseball.
Yeah, just baseball.
It's still a whole studio that makes that game that is called Sony San Diego.
Uh, Another bad hero I'd throw in and get your opinion on that I had on mine. PS5 Pro. From the
Hmm.
announcement of that and the backlash of pricing and what it actually is, and not having, in my eyes, enough of an established PS5 lineup to even warrant. I think I said at the time it's probably grown a little since then, but when this was announced, there was 22 exclusive games on PlayStation that you couldn't get anywhere else.
Also, it's not working well. The tech, the PSSR. So those upgrades, it's not every game works well, and I haven't looked into it, so I don't want to get specific. But I've seen people mention that, and so like it's just something that wasn't fully ready. But again, it's just what Sony has done. They've always released a pro console, right? So they're just doing what they've done and what they know and what they can get away with. There's a reason they announced the PS5 Pro and then immediately, shortly after, announced the 30th anniversary line of stuff, just colorways and whatnot, which was awesome to celebrate. But yeah, they knew, they knew this was kind of unnecessary, especially $700 for this, no disk drive. Yeah, it's something else. But hey, if you're in the market and you needed one anyways, what's another $200?
Yeah,
I
700
guess three.
or 1,000 if you get the pro colorway of it.
Jeez, that's insane. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think their hardware definitely was a bummer this year, mostly because it just didn't get there, right? It just didn't meet fully the promise, and I don't think it was necessary to release new hardware this year. It seems like they might have wanted to be first, so to speak, and then get this out so they can get the PS6.
Yeah. What I said at the time, I remember it felt like old Sony. where Xbox has been
Yeah.
talking about letting you do incremental upgrades and, hey, we're keeping stuff on platforms longer and not cutting off older players to force you into the new spot. Where Sony is still in that generational, this is what we're doing, this is where you're getting it, this is how you get it. Sucks to suck if you're not upgrading right now. Like, they're moving ahead with their plans as they see fit and don't really care. But again, that's when we started the conversation with PlayStation, when it was, even with the price of this and people questioning why it exists, people were still excited about it. People were still getting hyped about it. There was still, it was selling. And then the 30th anniversary edition came out and that sold out. Like, it's a bad, but they're still supporting it and all for it for their own personal reasons.
Well, there were what, only 1,300, 13,000 30 anniversary PlayStation Pros. So like I know that was a limited number, but I also remember the it not selling out the PS5 Pro. Like it wasn't where you had to keep refreshing, people were losing it in the cart. That wasn't the case necessarily. Once like you got past the first surge. So yeah, I think I don't know. It just feels like even the market was like, whatever. Cool, thanks. We'll see how many they sell. The numbers will be interesting. I don't think they're going to be selling that many.
Uh, Another thing I want to throw in the good here, I had on my list. In general, for the past few years, even, I'm just gonna throw on indie support. I feel like that has been, and that ties in with third party, but
It hasn't
PlayStation
come out yet though. It comes out next year in
in
spring.
next year.
The
Indiana
Great Circle.
Jones,
Indiana indie support.
God,
The Indiana Jones joke.
but this, but
Dun,
oh,
dun, dun, dun,
their
dun.
indie initiative led by Shuhei the past few years has really made them the platform for that and been the launching point for a lot of games. Animal Well this year, Indie Darling started on PlayStation first, released there. Balatro started over there. Dave the Diver is, I still think, only on PlayStation as far as consoles go. Dredge, only on PlayStation. Like, there's a list of indie games that their home is on PlayStation. They have their name from PlayStation, then branch out from there. So I'm throwing indie support in the goods because they've been absolutely killing it. And I'm curious to see, with Shu stepping down this year, how much that changes. If they are still getting those deals going, if they are losing the eyes for the special games, quote unquote, that are going to do big, and what that output looks like moving forward.
Mhm. For sure, yeah, especially since the head of that is leaving. That we should see something different happen. Maybe potentially. Well, it'll be interesting. But oh, real quick, Dredge is also on Xbox now. You could buy it there.
Is it?
Yeah,
Oh, I'm gonna double dip on those achievements.
or I see why.
God, I can't wait for that movie to come out. That's gonna be sick.
That's crazy. I can't wait to know what it's about. But that's past, now future.
Do you have anything else to throw in either of the categories?
No, I think that's it for me. A lot more bad.
A lot more bad. The future, while you're talking, just to get ahead of things, I did put some stuff down already. Big
Mhm,
one, Ghost of Yote, as you mentioned, their big thing for next year. We can assume that will probably be their fall holiday game for 2025. Um, PSX question mark. Not next year, but I could see a reveal towards the end of the year or an acknowledgement of it in some way, shape, or form. And then just the list of unannounced titles from studios. They're in Xbox's position a few years back where you go down their studio list and what they did last and what they're working on next, and it's just question marks across the board.
mhm.
And there's literally everyone besides Insomniac and Sucker Punch, pretty much. Like, it's all just question marks for the future.
Yeah, their next state of play, which I expect is in the first section of the year. I'll say first half. I want it be. I would love it early, like January or February. Do what Xbox does, but we'll see. Yeah, I expect that first state of play to be that next state of play, or yeah, or showcase as well, to be pretty big. They can let it. They can do as much as they want when they're ready to, right? Like you said, they have so much that we just don't know. which makes it really exciting. I agree. I don't think the PlayStation 6 will be next year. They just got the Pro out. Um, I wouldn't be surprised, like you said, again, them just hinting at it, straight up telling us, hey, we'll tell you next, this being not this spring, but the following spring, being like, we'll show you more then, right? Like them announcing it in that way next year, not really showing it yet. But uh, yeah, it's interesting with the Pro because how soon is a PlayStation 6? Is it 2 years removed or three, 2.5? It'll be interesting to see that, especially with whatever Xbox is doing there.
Yeah, I would assume 2026 is safe for it. Give it a full year and then half a year left before uh that full transition happens. But even when it does happen, by then is Sony still doing things how they used to? Are they still going to treat it as PS6 is here, this is our focus now? Like I just said, are they going to throw away the past or are they going to slowly integrate it into a more welcoming approach of cross-platform games more, and PS5 is going to be supported for longer times? And with that, I threw one more thing in the future. Their exclusive wall is breaking down even more. I I've said it multiple times. I feel by the end of next year there'll be 2 more games at least on Xbox from them, as the prices and cost development and the uncertainty and closures of studios and just everything in the industry right now. I feel like it's gonna happen still. I'm in the minority. I bring it up on forums online and I'm getting attacked, but that's just the fanboy way of things. But I
Dude,
full
I'm
heartedly
telling you,
think
I agree with you, and I think 100% Helldivers 2 will be on Xbox. I think that is the first game. It makes sense, especially to coincide with the next big update potentially, or maybe it's after that, maybe on the next update. But I do think that's just it works. Xbox games going over, Sea of Thieves, a multiplayer first focus game there, still could be played solo, but like that moderately successful, and I think why not just toss Helldivers over too? And you already are successful on PC. That game would benefit from a bigger player base, and the community wanted it right away. It came out, and everyone's like Xbox now. Like the community even role played within it. Like we need help, and all the memes and gifs of like the Xbox players joining the fight. Like it memes itself. Phil picks up the phone easily as very early on in Helldivers 2, post Helldivers 2 release, and PlayStation answered the call. It's just to me, it's like if and when, not if, it's when.
yeah.
But I agree. PC will have day and day at some point releases. There's no reason not to. It's just too lucrative.
I'm with how wild this year was with this happening on Xbox's side, I really think next year is going to be even more so in almost every way. The We're going on to Xbox next, but their 4 initial titles, that's obviously been broken down. Like that's not happening anymore. The rate at which these things are changing is just steadily increasing, and it's going to be a wildly different landscape when dust settles, next generation quote unquote consoles are out, handhelds are out. Like gaming is going to be in a weird place that old heads aren't going to be happy with, I feel.
Which is funny because that world and that ecosystem will still be there. Everything is just in addition to. You still will be able to play your game on your console day one, whatever console you play. Just guess what? More people are going to support that game so you can get more games.
How dare they?
How dare they do that?
How dare the studio I like get more money for other cool
It should only
projects?
be made for me. I'm the only investor. Yeah. No, yeah. It'll be interesting to see how they do it and when they do it, especially because yeah, their audience and user base is very platform specific and very anti going everywhere. Xbox has been mocked online for it, and online's online, but online is its own world, right? And that's what a lot of people get their news from and read and see, and that's where the sentiment of where companies are really kind of comes from. And yeah, PlayStation's first. Nintendo does its thing and Xbox is struggling, right? That's the online sentiment, even though I don't think that's anywhere near reality at all.
Yeah.
But man, yeah, PlayStation, like you started, is in the lead within conversation, like conversationally, yeah, like they are in that sphere for sure. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting how they message it next year because yeah.
With
What do you
that,
give it?
I was gonna ask you first. I'm it's gonna come off bad either way. I'm Xbox fanboy, quote unquote, like that's my primary place. But generally, even just looking at this list and weighing stuff out, like D plus, just because it's been they had a quiet of a year in a different way than Nintendo did, where it wasn't just straight quiet and they were floating by. It was quiet with road bump, quiet with road bump, quiet with road bump, quiet with Astrobot. Hey, go sun shining, and then back to a road bump again. It's just kind of continuously been bumpy road, for lack of better saying.
Yeah. No, I'm hey, we're on the same page with this. You know, we gave Nintendo that C plus, and they just that was like middle of the road, right? I mean, it is what it is. Yeah, they didn't really do that much this year. To me, they had more questionable decisions than not. And again, for me, reading between the lines, reading between what they've been telling us and seeing stuff, it's like I wouldn't feel fully confident in what they're doing yet, bec- largely in part because they haven't said anything. But yeah, I think they're just hey, Jim Ryan really angled the company in a different way. This is a righting of the ship, and it's going to take more than just a month or two. It's going to take a year or two, and we're going to feel that for a little bit.
Yeah, and even
But
with
that PlayStation 6 lineup's going to be killer.
God, even with this being a D plus, it's not to say like PlayStation sucks. They're terrible. It's just where they've been as an entity this year.
Look, the
It's
highlights were Astrobot and Helldivers 2 and third-party games. Final Fantasy, like not a strong year.
no, and that's even saying that the third party support Astrobot Final Fantasy Game of the Year contenders still like had solid stuff. It's just the back end of things is weird.
PlayStation had 2 Game of the Year contenders exclusive, and we gave them a D plus.
Ayo. That's what I'm saying. It's not where they. It's not to say they suck. It's just it's expecting better.
Hey, it's a platform, not the games.
Yeah,
It's a platform. I question the platform. Like, yeah, they have decent games, but it's funny.
get better, PlayStation.
Yeah, you are, you better fix your grades, okay?
Come back next
D
year.
plus. I don't know. You have to retake the class. You have to retake 2024.
To end us off, the big one,
Yes, yes.
Team Green,
Yes, with
Xbox.
all their multiple Xbox in the room. All
X.
12 Xbox. I love that that's the plural.
I got two Xboxes in my hand right now. Bam! Look
Nope,
at
it's
that.
not Xboxes, it's Xbox.
Okay,
That's the plural. They told us. You got to respect it.
sorry. It's not a cat box though, so I don't gotta worry.
Could be though.
Xbox 2024. What the shit is going on?
But tell us. I mean, I want to hear your take on Xbox first.
It's just weird. Again, this is stuff we've been talking about all year. This is gonna be re-hitting on so many points. They're taking the full brunt of advancing how things are done faster than everyone else. So they are the outlier in how things are distributed. They're the outlier on how they're doing development. They're the outlier on how they handle consoles and hardware and handhelds and streaming and all this stuff that you can't really, we don't have anything to stack it up against. There's nothing to compare it to. So, like we've said, the knee jerk reaction is this is bad, change is bad, why are you doing this? But then you start seeing some of this stuff and you're like, okay, that makes sense. Oh, yeah, this thing over here that cool, good for them. That team's doing good with how they're doing things. Oh, this is bringing in more money for this team this way. they're doing things as they have. 2013 online DRM and always online and all this stuff was aided and crippled them tremendously. But nowadays, like that's just kind of the norm. They were ahead of the time on things. And they're reliving that back now, I feel, more than ever in a super critical time and being punched down on for it. And having terrible messaging about it and not being fully open about things and letting your fans feel like they've been betrayed or left behind or all these different issues that are arising and people are making up in their heads and forming, this is my own personal grievance because I have issues with them, uh forming strong parasocial relationships with content creators to a point that they feel they have a better knowledge, a better understanding, an inside know to sway people in certain directions with their messaging and kind of light these fires online when bad things happen or rumors start and they're spreading it and stories get blown out of proportion and you end up with the business meeting we had in May. Like, I feel next year they really need to pull things in, reel in what they're doing, focus on messaging, focus on who they're interacting with, focus on their just output and head to the ground, pump out games, pump out handhelds, whatever you're going to do. Focus on what your future is going to be. That's it. Dropping the mic.
Oh. Yeah, I think I'm a little higher on what they're doing because I don't know. I see what I mean. Remember that moment when Phil was just like, "I see it." He was like, we haven't had the games come out. That's true. Like, we can't until I have the games out. You're not. I forget the interview he did. I forget where or when. Uh,
I
he's
think
like,
that was the
you
kind of
know,
funny one, actually.
oh really? Okay, that's funny. Uh, Yeah, he was like, I see it down the road, right? I see the cadence. And like if you look at this fall for Xbox, Shattered Space, Black Ops 6, I mean Modern Warfare 3 too was in there, but Black Ops 6, Diablo 4, Aura History Untold, and then you go into like Flight Sim, Indiana Jones. Those are first party studios now, and like the cadence of releases this fall was tremendous. Oh my god, what a good cadence for Game Pass specific. And Xbox is Game Pass. That is like the huge tentpole of the Xbox brand. That's just what is working for them right now. So that's cool. But the cadence for the last of the late of this year, yeah, the last couple months has been crazy cool. And for me, it's like you can start to see that. The first half was light, It took a while to get going. It was carried by third party. There was some first party. The news was dominated by games going to PlayStation. And then unfortunately, the release of Hellblade was very divisive. I love the game, but yeah, it's a 5 to 7 hour game that is not a crazy deep action game, but is very specific and technically, visually amazing and beautiful. And I can't wait to see where they take that tech next. Like Ninja Theory showed what you can do on the far end of using that engine and what they're doing. All right, now let's see what's next. Get a little more action focused. But it took a while to get to fall, but I'm excited to see next year because now Xbox is in this cadence. I know you've been writing up a little thing for next year of what Xbox has coming. It's crazy, and if they can hit a cadence of every month or every other month of having a first party exclusive, that's amazing. And even if it's for you or if it's not, right? That's okay. Aura History Untold is not for everyone, but if that's for you, that's awesome that that came to the platform. And then guess what? Black Ops 6 is later. That might not be for that person that loves Aura, but they still are playing Aura. But that person that didn't want to play Aura, they're now potentially playing Black Ops 6 and loving it. Or you're like me and I played it all. Like, so I just I see where they're going, but their messaging has been shitty. It's hard to argue that when public and the response is what it is. You can't sit there and be like, "All right, the public's wrong." No, there's clearly some messaging issue, and fans do feel like they're being left behind in some way. So hopefully, Microsoft can figure out a way of messaging that because I just don't. think that's the case. They're just in addition to, but once you add, like, you lose more focus, of course, you get a little bigger, things start to get dropped potentially. And yeah, maybe we see the console lose focus down the line. I just think that's too big of a pillar to drop, so I'm not as worried about it in a way.
Yeah, I definitely next year I feel will be a better indication of that
Mhm.
as we get closer to. They've straight up said they have hardware coming. Like that's not the end. We have at least one more. Where that lands, how that lands, what it is, how it fits into their future they're building is yet to be seen, obviously. But I feel like at the end of next year to have a better mindset and idea of what that looks like.
Mhm. For sure.
Yeah, to good start off as you're talking, I threw in all the games you said, like it was killer, and yeah, it's they bought people whoever, it's first party, that's what they're doing. Indiana Jones, great reviews, way more nines and tens than I was expecting. I can't wait to jump into it tomorrow and try. Black
I'm so
Ops,
excited now, yeah.
yeah, Black Ops 6, highest, fastest player engagement, whatever numbers they're doing. Black Ops is back, Call of Duty is back. I'm excited to be back in the ecosystem after taking
I got my
years off.
I got my first prestige. I'm at 2 levels away from prestiging a second time,
I
like
have
crazy.
so much catching up to do. Flight Sim came out. It's kind of more rocky issues, but with cloud streaming and server side of
Just server.
things, yeah, you're having a great time.
So I'm playing a bunch of it. I'm leveling up. I figured out the career mode, and like leveling up isn't that crazy. So I can go. I want to do the firefighting, aerial firefighting. I want to try that out. And I was level 30, but as long as you fly well, you're getting like 80,000 XP. So it's not crazy. I'm loving it. It's super fun. I can't wait to. We'll talk about it fully in another episode once I play more. But
Let's go back to
yeah, but
America.
again, like this fall has just been crazy with those releases. Can you also put Dungeons of Hinterberg on there? Because I think Xbox is like just Pass being a vessel of hatred, Diablo 4. Game Pass being a vessel for indies to be discovered has been fantastic, right? I wouldn't have tried Dungeons of Hinterberg outside of like I just wouldn't have been able to. But with Game Pass, it was a cool little game that caught my attention. I wanted to try it. You went into Kunitsugami. They came out at the same time that day. They're drastically different games, by the way. But I fell in love with Dungeons of Hinterberg. It is such a great game, and it got me into that social system that they have that's similar to Persona. And now I'm playing Persona 3, which is also on Game Pass. Persona 3 Reload. So it's cool how it's exactly what Game Pass can do when on the good side. Like, this is the great side of Game Pass is having these games that probably wouldn't have been as discovered possibly without being on a service like this. How a bunch of people are playing it and talking about it. So uh, yeah, very very fun.
Yeah, for sure. Hellblade 2 is also on there, as you mentioned. Released kinda in a weird spot. Solid game. Like you said, not what people were really expecting. It had a lot to live up to, arguably. Hellblade 1 was that year's indie hit. Like, that brought up a lot of conversations of what games can be and mental health and development of games. It brought up a lot of new things and trying to follow up on that. Plus, also being the first game announced for Xbox Series X and S 5 years ago in 2019. And then we finally get it 5 years later, and it was okay. Didn't really help, sadly.
I liked it. It was more Hellblade in a way, right? They expanded upon Hellblade in a way I don't think people expected them to, and I think that's what caused some issue. They just got more visually in depth with it.
Yeah.
And they got kind of more almost more meta narrative. It wasn't as even though the first one I felt was a little more straightforward with it being directly about her, but then the second one I feel like it's how other people are affecting her and how Senwa herself is affecting herself and how
Mhm.
that affects how she views other people and interactions. So anyways.
Yeah. No, it was solid. It is fairly high up in my top 10 list of the year. As I mentioned last week, it's special place in my heart because it was the first game for us on the show here of playing together, reviewing, playing through, talking about. So that was a special moment. Uh Diablo 4 Vesper
Also,
of
it
Hate.
took forever to come out and it just kept getting like spots at shows and it was like, oh, this is gonna be a big game.
Yeah, weird
Got a little
trailers.
overhyped.
Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred came out in the fall.
It's also on
Everyone
Game Pass
and
now,
Game
and
Pass.
that's just crazy.
First one. That was the first Activision Blizzard game to come over.
Hmm.
Uh, seems to do a lot of good. A lot of conversations around it was that it brought back of what Diablo should have been when it came out initially, and fixed a lot of the problems people had with that. Um, and then WoW War then I threw in as well. Again, it's Blizzard Xbox first party. It's just on PC still, but I'm so excited for where
I know
that
you
game
love
is.
that.
Yeah, so excited for where that game is and the future of what it is. And God, please, June showcase announce for Xbox. So people will never see me outside
That'd be
again.
great. We'll see. It's gonna be crazy if it ever does come. Oh, do you want to mention Pow World? Remember that took over the world for a
Oh,
little
yeah.
bit there, and now they're in a legal battle with Nintendo because only Nintendo can have games that throw balls at animals. But also, the PC side had some cool releases. Again, highlighting like smaller studios like Manor Lords. I don't know the studio offhand, but that's a small little. It's a big game actually, but a city builder game on PC Game Pass got nominated for a couple awards at the Game Awards. Uh, Super fun. And then like Age of Mythology, that's on console as well. Ara already mentioned that one, but Frostpunk 2, that is a fantastic game. Just dropped in Game Pass, PC Game Pass. Like very, 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 very good. It's not as difficult in the same way as Frostpunk, but still punishing for sure.
Keeping on the Game Pass topic, I'm adding it here on the bad. I hope going into next year that they
Oh, like the
relook at what Game Pass is. This was at the beginning of the year. We had the breakout of Game Pass Core and Game Pass Normal and Game Pass Ultimate, and some games aren't going to be on some of the services, and some Xbox first party releases aren't going to be there day one unless you get the extra version, and people wanting the Game Pass family plan that's not announced yet, or if it's ever happening. There's so much, so many different angles to take it on that it's hard to explain. And if I talk to people, I was like, Ultimate, just get Ultimate. It's slightly more expensive, solves all the problem, it solves all your questions you have. But if you are looking for just the basic numbers and basic games and stuff, like there's a chance there. It's too much of the same thing being named too similarly to me for me.
Yeah, like right now, if you go on to subscribe to just console, not talking about PC, because if you're doing PC, you might as well just do Ultimate. I think that one's pretty simple. But for console, you can do core for $10, standard for 15, and ultimate for 20. And like at that point, you get EA Play membership as a part of ultimate. You get different perks and discounts and whatnot if you care about that. But the biggest one is ultimate gets new games on day one. Standard does not anymore. They got rid of the day one stuff. So on it's driving everyone to the $20 a month price tag, which is fine. It is what it is. I personally think this is kind of the cap for Game Pass. I don't think you can go more than 20 a month. 25 even is just too much to me. Um that's a lot more over the course of a year. So I do hope we are capped at 20. I think that is a decent, perfectly fine price. That's $10 for both PC and console Game Pass, and I think that's fair. That's fair. And since the majority of people probably on Ultimate Console do not play on PC, like the majority of users are not taking advantage of that. So like it balances out, in my opinion. I hope it stays at 20. If it doesn't, it's in the bad.
Gonna have issues, Phil.
I'm gonna have issues. I'm gonna call you up. I'm gonna nuke Phil in Fallout 76.
Anything else you want to throw in either category before looking back kind of at the start of the year and going through?
No, yeah, that'll help me think of stuff.
Okay. Starting out, one of my favorite things they do now, which is on the opposite side of messaging, we had the developer direct in January. January 18th was the big reveal, well, not reveal, but big showcase for Avowed, Hellblade 2, Visions of Mana, and Indiana Jones was the surprise appearance at that, telling us it'll be here this year, which I huge fan of the developer direct. I love that that's now hopefully a yearly thing. I'm excited for this January's because we should pretty much know everything it's going to be. If Fable is actually hitting next year, which I'm still up in the air on, should be there. Avowed again will be there. South and Midnight should be there, and Doom, Dark Ages should also.
I don't think they'd put Avowed there. It was there last time. If anything, just a trailer, like a launch day trailer, because it's like the end of January they do it.
Oh yeah, and then February,
That'd
yeah.
be like 2 weeks to 3 weeks before. I think that would make sense. But either way, I do agree so far with your other list. The other games though, there. Um, this is gonna throw a wrench in our bad messaging because at the same time, while their messaging on the Xbox platform has been dicey, I think their messaging for games has been very, very good. When you think about the developer direct giving that highlighting the games that are coming out that year for the most part, some delays here and there, but for the most part, they've been the games that come out that calendar year. Um, and then they have the showcase later, and the last two have been very good when you consider all things considered, right? And then as they go on throughout the end of the year, having the different showcases and partner directs and such, I think the way they message games is actually very good. It's just what because like you said earlier, like Xbox is doing something differently than we've seen before in the space. They're not doing what Nintendo's doing. They're not doing what Sony's doing. They're what are they doing, right? I do think like that kind of adds up to it, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I would go one
But
step
yeah, I
further
think
with that. Even throwing in stuff like the Stalker documentary they did, like that's
oh yeah,
also in
no, oh
there.
yeah.
Like that's been a thing they've done, and there was one for Psychonauts that was, albeit before the buyout and third party done, but they're putting time into giving the teams times to explain their work and development and behind the scenes stuff, which is I wish more people would do. And I said that when soccer came
Hmm.
out, like I love that sort of thing.
Yeah. And again, it's like it's not bogging down the big showcase. It's not bogging down a direct, right? They get in, they get out. It's there though still. They're still investing time into it for those people that want to go find those things, or you're really into soccer and then they drop this documentary, you're like, hell yeah, that's awesome. I've been waiting for this game. But maybe you're not. There's still other things they're doing constantly on the wire and within their ecosystem that props up developers. And I think that's kind of the difference in what they're messaging. So yeah, messaging for games and developers, great. But how they're handling their platform and business is a question mark because it's changing and they can only tell us so much, right?
Mhm.
Give
Uh,
us the financial document, Phil.
can't wait to
Give
scroll
us
that over. These big numbers, what do they mean?
oh my god, he just sent it. An exclusive.
We're making bank.
I will
Uh,
be auctioning this off.
Fund us. Week after the developer direct, first bad, which was on Sony's as well. 1,900 people laid off, mostly at Blizzard. Mike Ybarra, formerly of Xbox, who went to Activision Blizzard to lead Blizzard, also left at this time. Again, just where the industry is. Some
That
people,
one's consolidation too.
yeah,
Huge. Activision being so big, HR, all that shit. Like a lot. That's just a crazy number, though. Crazy number of people.
yeah. When you're bringing in whole studios like that, like I said, some jobs you're going to be doubled up on. You're not going to need resources that you already have in house and stuff like that. Um, just the number at once was the shocking bit, because that's if not the biggest one we've seen this year. Even
Oh
comparing to
yeah,
their other
yeah.
two they had. Um,
There are other two.
uh, February 15th, we had business update with Phil, Sarah, and Matt. If you would talk about that 1 second, because I'm getting a ring.
Oh my god, I forgot about the business update. That was like all everyone thought the world was ending for Xbox. It really felt like they were about to just drop everything and go. People were saying they're going third party, they're going to go Sega, and everyone's like, "Oh no, Xbox is over." Such an overreaction. I did like the idea of a business meeting, getting to just like tell people this is what it is. We hear the rumors, we hear people complaining. This is what we're doing, and that's where I think they exactly said, we have 4 games. It's just the 4 for now, and that's what we're gonna see. And they told us we're going to see. And of course, now Indiana Jones is coming to PlayStation. They're like, they lied. How is it a lie when they told us they're going to see? And start there, right? So I don't I get people being like Xbox fanboys being upset that games are going to other platforms, but like it supports studios, it funds games, and more people can play the games you might like, therefore meaning the game probably will get a sequel, right? If more people played Sunset Overdrive, we wouldn't have
Mhm.
had Lost Insomniac to Sony. We would have got a Sunset Overdrive 2. So if that was multi-platform, we would have had a Sunset Overdrive 2. So who cares? The games are going multi-plat, and they didn't lie to you. They were just testing the 4 out.
I reinstalled Sunset Overdrive thanks to you last week.
That's amazing. Oh, that means I have to download so we could like just do some multiplayer shit.
um, yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
kind of blacked out during that rant.
that's fine. It's it's weird, right? Because it's we bitch about the messaging. This was messaging. This was them, albeit after the fact, trying to full intentions, trying to ring people back in and focus on what's happening, which is all good. But then within the same 6 months to a year, you just throw that away anyways and steer course again, which threw a lot of people off and really
What
killed
did they
that
steer
trust.
course? What are you referencing there, though?
The initial 4 games, that it's 4
Oh, but
games,
they
this
said
is
we're
it.
gonna start there and then we'll
Yeah.
see.
But like I said,
So,
then
like,
6 months we got Gamescom and, "Hey, Indiana Jones," and we're doing it in a really shitty way at an event like this to show you guys, like, "Hey, this is going to PlayStation 2." Like,
it's not shitty until they do it at the Game Awards with Death Stranding 2.
you
Oh,
know
and
what they're
one more
going
thing.
you know what they're
It's
gonna
coming
do
to
it with.
Xbox.
You know what they're gonna do
And
it
Jeff
with.
just has the biggest grin on his face because he's like, I got them both. I did both.
No.
um,
What it's gonna be is gonna be South of Midnight. I've seen someone leaks, rumors, whatever, release date for South of Midnight at Game Awards, somehow in March, which I'm not okay with or not agreeing with. I don't think it's that early, but I feel like they would do that
yeah.
there too. Hey, PlayStation later.
Oh yeah, hey, we've talked about this, and this kind of starts to touch on the future stuff. But I do think Xbox just needs to land on the marketing of what studios games will be multi-platform day and date, and which won't be, because a Call of Duty makes sense multi-platform. A Sea of Thieves could make sense day and date multi-platforms, that type of game, right? But your Halo, your Gears of War E Day, right? I think that shouldn't be day and date, but it's on PC day and date no matter what, right? So like there's that. So like 6 months, a year down the road, does it go? Is that okay? Does Xbox have to keep some games only on Xbox? I feel like that will be defined by what PlayStation will do. I don't think Xbox will give up like specific new games for Halo, Gears, Fable, unless PlayStation is also going to say, okay, we'll give you like Wolverine 2, right? If you're going to go day and date, we'll give you a day and date. I just feel like we're not there yet. So it is going to be some exclusivity deal. I would love for them to just come out and say, like I've been saying for a while now, Xbox Game Studios, anyone under that umbrella, any game will be Xbox only for 6 months to a year. After that, Activision, Blizzard, Bethesda, it's up to them. It's up to the studio. It's in Game Pass. It's on Xbox no matter what, right? But it's up to the studio if they want to go multi-plat and put some resources there. I just think that, and just telling people that so we know, then we'll get over it. Then we can actually just talk about the games and not about where they're being played.
Could you imagine the June showcase where just at the end of every trailer it was on some games just a PS logo at the end too? Like people would freak.
just just a PlayStation logo.
Well, not just PlayStation, but have the Xbox then PlayStation, like just up front when you reveal stuff. Hey, this one will be on PlayStation eventually. Not day and date, but
Yeah,
like it'll be there eventually. And then keep the ones that you are like. I know even the stuff's come up recently that
that's
there
crazy.
is no real red line anymore. But if you are going to keep some, just at front, up front, Xbox only. Like Xbox logo there. But yeah, this is
Yeah.
the Doom
Well, I
trailer,
think that's
PlayStation logo.
yeah. It has to do with the console exclusive, the launch exclusive. Like those are so specific, but also so vague at the same time. But yeah, just be more clear with that, and I think we'll be good to go. But but yeah, that was the business meeting that started all this discussion.
Next up, I have March 8th. Probably definitely a good, actually. After those 1,900 people laid off, 600 QA workers at Blizzard unionized under the Communication Workers of America, creating the largest video game union in North America. So good for them. More of
Good,
this,
good.
please. Save our developers. You already mentioned March 28th that month. Diablo 4 came to Game Pass. Was the first Activision Blizzard title to come over to the service. I know that probably could fit in the bad because a lot of people were expecting a lot more by now. We're a full year plus removed from the deal finalizing. I know that stuff technically couldn't be worked on before it was done, but a lot of people would have liked more stuff than we have. Crash Team Nitro Kart recently came. Spyro's in now. Crash,
Well, like stuff
Insane.
is recently, yeah, starting to come, like
Yeah,
the Crash and Spyro mostly.
so it's getting there, just not at the
Yeah,
rate
that
people want.
lawsuit definitely you can't. I'm fairly sure that lawsuit is what did it. You know, you can't have a flout like. Look at how many people are celebrating all of our corporate consolidation right now because we put everything on our subservice. Exactly what you were complaining about. We're they couldn't, justify. They had to wait.
Um, Next one, I almost want to put in the good, not Xbox proper, but April 10th, Fallout TV series launched to great acclaim. Everyone seemed to love Xbox rewriting their wrongs, so to say, with the Halo TV series.
If you're
And
gonna put Fallout in good, we have to put Halo in the bad.
season 2
You,
was this year, wasn't it?
it doesn't matter. It
Eh,
is forever stained. It's always gonna be on the bad.
Done deal.
Every year it'll just be in the corner, the Halo TV show. We can never forget.
Master Cheeks.
They won't let us forget. But yeah, no. It, I mean, yeah, it did break. Because again, Halo just didn't hit the mark. So Fallout was the question mark. Like, are we gonna get a Halo? But no, it's authentically Fallout. They're working on season 2 now, and that's great. I can't wait to see kind of what they do with it and see how it potentially influences the games. It's its own. It's just set in the world. It's its own story. It takes place within the world. So it'll be interesting to see down the line, like this is Fallout 5 whenever that eventually comes, just to see if that influences anything. Just more excites me, uh, seeing if there's any crossovers or whatnot. But yeah, what a good show. Bummed that Halo sucked ass. What an awful television show. just it I don't even it just what a sci-fi channel slot fest it was. And it's so disappointing. Oh, that's a good one. Tango Gameworks. Yep, that's one to
Yeah.
mention.
Sorry, I was typing when you're talking.
I know.
Um,
I was just reading what you're typing.
yeah, I hope with
Uh,
the Fallout stuff, one last thing. I hope we get something from that series. I know 76 is still doing great, constant updates. And they had the next gen update for Fallout 4. I wish there was something new, a new shiny thing to be around the same time when the hype is high, and
we'll get something soon.
hopefully.
I hope it's just not a remaster of 3, which we thought was going to be announced at some point this year, at one point. But
I would take that.
yeah, yeah, but I want. The thing is with Fallout 4, remember they announced that in June and it came out that fall. So we're not gonna get a marketing lead up that's crazy for a Fallout 5. It is just gonna be announced and dropped. It's just is Elder Scrolls 6 first? Because that means Fallout 5 is a ways away, and that is a bummer. Unless they let another studio take a shot,
'Cause that's
like a Larian.
oh
A Larian tactical art Fallout RPG. Since Bethesda for some reason won't let Obsidian do another New Vegas, which Obsidian now is doing their own thing. They're having a great time with Outer Worlds and Avowed. But yeah, go back to a tactical sense just to get back into the world.
that'd be good. That would even be
Big
hey,
IP.
Fallout 1 and 2 were like that. Do one in that style again, which could work.
Exactly. Yep.
That's very much how Wasteland was a few years back when that released. I fell in love with that game.
Yep. I think Larian. hinted at an IP, so we'll see whenever they want to get around to the next game. They're done with Baldur's. They said they're not doing anything else, so
Oh, that'd be wild.
that would be wild. But yeah, we'll see. Yeah, but it's probably Elders first, Elder Scrolls, which trailer at the Game Awards.
As you mentioned, as I was typing out, next big bad, everyone is pissed off again. Closure of Arcane Austin, Tango Gameworks, Alpha Dog Games. Sad,
Yeah,
big sad.
yeah, Alpha Dog Games, a mobile game studio. I forget what they made and we're working on. Tango, of course, just released Hi-Fi Rush, and being everyone loving it so much, going over the PlayStation, people enjoying it. Uh, but yeah, but luckily, Tango GameWorks were able to come to a deal with another studio who bought them. So instead of Tango closing, they got picked up by someone.
Oh, it was the PUBG developers. I can look for you here.
Yes, I forget. Yeah, yeah. So that is a positive, of course. They were able to swoop up the
Crafton.
developers and yeah, craft it. We'll see whatever comes with that studio. They got most of the team back as well, which is all a good thing. That studio didn't get closed, at the end of the day. That's good. And of course, Arcane Austin coming off of Redfall from the previous year, just unfortunately couldn't recover from that. And yeah, when the game you're supposed to be actively working on that was supposed to make you some income, unfortunately, colossally fails in this economy. Well, this is the outcome. So awful, bummer, but yeah, sad still.
Yeah, Alpha Dog was doing Mighty Doom, the mobile Doom
Oh
game.
yeah, that game was awful. I did not enjoy it.
Yeah, this sucked. This one too, I remember I even have it pulled. I found it on the tweet. This even got the head of Arcane Leon was on Twitter openly criticizing this and reassuring people they're continuing work on Blade after Arcane Austin closed. Obviously different teams, but still same family. But even having studio heads in that sense come out, which is I could don't remember another time that's happened. That someone in your own wheelhouse has come out and criticized what you're doing so publicly, putting their job on the line potentially.
Yeah,
It was just wild. Yeah, Redfall was a failure, but it was their first that to that level, really, Like there's more work and passion and art there, and from the stories that came out, it wasn't really their fault after they were kind of forced into doing a live service thing, and then that
yeah.
turned course and behind the scenes
I think
issues.
yeah, I think for any and I don't know like running a studio and whatnot, but it does seem like kind of wild that one failure can close a studio. I that's just it seems to me like the industry might have ballooned a little too much. Uh, and all of a sudden, when it's like, oh, we actually are losing money, the result has to be to let people go and close studios. And there's the bigger discussion into pockets and where money actually sits. Um, but yeah, that just still baffles my mind that one thing can end a studio, just like with Concord, right? That's it. It's like really like you don't have any contingencies in place for that. But yeah, to have this also ties into Xbox messaging, the bad side of it being their platform and business side. This really the first half of the year was full of these moments of everyone questioning Phil. Is it time for Phil to go? Is this working? Is Xbox just going to go third party? Because you know what? The brand isn't working anymore. Like, yeah, there's a lot of that talk around this being and two big name studios, right? With Tango and Arcane. But again, it's just the economy. It's and or management of funds.
Yeah, and Tango 2 was the other one that you messaging again kind of where it was we want to establish a larger footprint in Japan and do all this stuff. Hey, you have a Japan studio here you just acquired who just gave
Yeah,
you one of
but
your highest rated games in recent memory and then just
yeah, but see the
gone.
thing with that though, like I remember like there's an article on Xbox Wire about Hi-Fi Rush, which it was just made by people in the studio as a side project and it got bigger and bigger and then people kept seeing it and all of a sudden it's like, no, this is what the studio's working on. Like it kind of became the studio's focus, which is cool in a way, but to me that like again, it wasn't what they were like working towards, and then it became what they were working towards. So what was this? I don't know. I see that as like not surprising that that kind of got unfortunately dropped, but still working on something, which is good. But I don't know. I would love to know more about the background there. That article really left me like interested in that Tango game work situation because again, it wasn't like you hear from incubation teams all the time in studios, but this one just it's a cool story in the article having this person just small team come up with this idea for a rhythm game, but then it became like bigger than any other game that the studio has made. And then the director of that studio left after Hi-Fi Rush. I don't know. Anyways, that's a separate. I could
Yeah.
probably do like a opinion piece on that or something.
I was looking, I was struggling. There was a fourth studio involved in this too. Roundhouse Games wasn't closed, but they were absorbed into ZeniMax Online to help with Elder Scrolls and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So there was a fourth one, again, just absorbed, not doors closed, but
Yeah. Not everyone. Those people didn't get let go.
yeah.
They just got absorbed. It's good. But
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah. First half, their Xbox rough.
yeah, that's just through June.
Yeah, but then it got better.
It got better. Uh,
That showcase.
yeah, showcase already on the good. The June showcase, I have in parentheses, arguably one of their best showcases, if not the best showcase they have ever had. Just the amount of, as I said with X or PlayStation, the amount of studios they had with unknown titles in development and people waiting to hear from these teams, and then finally being able to blow the doors off. And yo, we talked about Perfect Dark years ago, and this new studio formed. Here it is. You want next Doom? Here it is. Fable's back, coming out 2025 supposedly. Like, just on all cylinders. The hype on unknowns, the hype on doubling down on titles we knew about, Indiana Jones, third party stuff with Dragon Age was there, Assassin's Creed Shadows had a showcase. Um, Indie side of things, mixtape from the Artful Escape team. Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater showed up, which has primarily been a PlayStation marketing thing so far. Like across the board, they just had nonstop surprise and hype, and I watched that I think 3 times that day alone. Like, I was all in. That was Xbox at their best, and if it's a sign of what's to come with this June showcase and in the future, sign me up. I'm all in. Take my money.
Yeah, we should do a fan edit of when Phil was like, "I could see it," and then what does he see? And it's this showcase just cut to all the announcements, all the crazy things that came out of it. Yeah, no, and if they can just avoid having delays, push stuff too much, having just messaging issues, like stuff is hitting again. Like this fall has been tremendous for Xbox, and it started in June. From June on, Xbox has had a tremendous back half of the year. Like, right? I don't. You have your list of more chronological stuff that happened. But off the top of my head, I can't really think of anything negative too crazy that happened in the back half. And this is kind of like a good cadence for them. So I hope going into next year and especially next fall, like we can get these strong releases. Gears, E Day, that's going to look amazing, but can it land and grab people like the old Gears used to do? And Fable, oh my gosh, can Playground do it? Can Playground Games go from making a car game, open world car game? Can they make an open world action adventure RPG, whatever that's going to shake out to be? Uh, like there's so many question marks, but if those hit, I mean, a Fable 1 month, a month and a half, 2 months later, a Gears, and then what other
Gears E
third
Day.
party, what was that?
Gears E Day. That was the other
Yeah,
big
Gears
one.
E Day, and then where's Doom in that, my friend? Doom Dark Ages also comes out. Like, the cadence is here and, like, yeah, from that showcase on, Xbox is really as long as they can hit it, and in the past, they haven't, and that's the big question mark now.
Yeah, I'm just that showcase was everything that I could have possibly wanted. And that's even after coming off of last year's, which at that time I was like, this is the best one they've had. Like that was the big reveal for Fable initially, but this was doubling down and
And the Starfield Direct too, and
yep.
then this year being the Call of Duty Direct, I love how they do that. Can't wait for the Fable Direct this year, calling it. Go a deep dive
Oh,
into Fable.
don't say that.
No, they have to. That's the perfect. You don't
It's
show
the
anything
perfect
outside of it. Developer direct, maybe a teaser trailer, and then June, your deep dive, baby.
It's the perfect. I I'm at like 5% of that actually hitting next year as a release. I think that game is too big and too
My
much
friend,
to get out.
how often does a Forza Horizon get delayed? How often do they struggle to get those out?
No, but
This
they
team
know
knows what they're
cars. They
doing,
know cars. They
and
don't know
they
fantasy.
but cars are more complicated than than fantasy. Like cars have more parts. There's more little engine parts.
I would be over the moon ecstatic. That's what I said for next year is it's great that they're finally on their release calendar of getting a game out every quarter, whatever they're going to do. That's awesome. I'm even more excited, and it's more awesome that every single one of those for 2025 is right up my alley. Doom,
Yeah, yeah.
hype, Fable, love Fable. I give me that fantasy setting. South of Midnight was my game of show last for that June showcase. Like that,
Mhm.
I am over the moon for that game. Everything that they have lined up is for me, and if it is, I'll be eating good. I'll be so happy. I just Fable's the only outlier for me.
Yeah, I do think they have to get it right. So I think it's more likely than I think it has a higher chance of getting pushed because you got to get it, you got to have it land technically, right? It can't be buggy, it can't be too anything. Like it has to run well, and if it, so it wouldn't surprise me, but I do think nah, this is slotted for a release next year. They've been working on this for a while. I think it's been 2 years since we saw that teaser.
2 years was the
It'll
first
be
reveal
two.
when they opened up the show. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, come on. Come on. You've already been working on it for 2+ years before that. That's 4 years. Perfect time to release it.
I can
Get
hope.
ready.
I can hope. Uh moving on with the bad for the rest of the
Oh,
year. This is the one I mentioned during the Nintendo section that Xbox did something similar. July 29th, Xbox 360 store closed down. Again, for me, same reasons for the Nintendo store is closing. It sucks. That's a 2 generation ago thing. But again, there's still plenty of titles that were exclusive in that store. Even just add-ons and DLC packs and stuff like that that was exclusive and a major part of arguably Xbox's biggest generation. Gone. Sucks to see. Um, Another bad to end off the year. I mentioned there was 3 of them. September came around, September 12th, and we got an additional 650 people laid off across Xbox Game Studios this time, so across the board. This was in news more so as corporate and supporting functions, so not necessarily developers. So you're assuming HR, marketing, stuff like that. I have no idea exactly.
yeah.
Um, but that was the third and biggest one. Let me get caught
Yeah.
up here.
Expected with corporate layoffs, those type of positions overlap, but 650 people lost their job, and that is not okay. That sucks.
Yeah. Right after those, I have on here, we mentioned it a couple times now, the Indiana Jones thing at Gamescom. Sour taste in people's mouth. New trailer, cool. Ending it off with PlayStation reveal, weird.
I don't, I think it's silly to have a sour taste in your mouth. You're getting a game. You will not be thinking about Indiana Jones that much by the time it comes to PlayStation, and then you'll be like, "Oh yeah, what a great time I had with Indiana Jones," and then you'll move on with your life.
Oh, Indiana Jones is back in the news again. Wonder why. Oh, it's on the other
That's
platform.
exciting. I enjoyed my time with that. I already played and beat it last year.
Yeah.
Good for them. Enjoy it. I hope you like it. Like,
Week after that, on the 26th, WoW War Within released. Good job, Blizzard. Um, Shattered Space was the next release for Starfield. Again, another kind of rocky launch for what it was. They've been on the path of getting Starfield in the image they originally sought, and constant updates and mod support and fixes and whatever across the board. First big expansions here. It was okay. We both did a review for it, had multiple issues across the board for both of us.
yeah, I
Um,
still can't discover locations anywhere in the universe now.
God, that would irritate me.
It's not just on Varunkai. Yeah, so my save is like totally blocked. It sucks. I haven't
Oh,
gone
I
back
would have been
since. So
done.
Yeah, that sucks. That sucks. But I do have multiple characters I've been playing, so whatever. Until it fixes itself. Yeah, the more I get away from Shattered Space, the less I feel fondly of it, which is a bummer. I love Starfield for what it is, but like I said, I haven't gone back. I think I opened it once on my Series S, and then it crashed, and I said, "All right," and it just,
That's where we're
you know,
at.
it, yeah. So kind of a bummer. It is a fantastic space sim, but it is a space sim. It is a Bethesda simulation space game RPG, through and through. But I'm sad Shattered Space didn't hit as hard as it was aiming to.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
that's what started off the fall because from that September 30th on was a shit ton of stuff.
It was good. Uh, before shit ton of stuff happened though, we had one other event happen that was breaking news for us while we were recording. Halo World Championships were happening. 343 dropped a video. They're changing their name to Halo Studios and switching to Unreal Engine.
That's true. That was live. That was fun.
October 6th. Um, something I don't think anyone saw coming. There was no rumors about this happening. There was no leaks about this happening. It just
No.
here's a trailer. Here's our new logo. This is what we're doing. Um, I would arguably say this is good. It's kind of in the middle. It's neither or, but it's good in the sense of I mentioned it.
Fresh start.
Yeah, fresh start, and it's showcasing the new team leads there. It's showcasing the new ideas there. It's showcasing the new generation that's going to be tackling Halo from here on out. And a lot of the old guard is gone, and these are the new faces. These are the ideas we have for what Halo could be, and branching out and expanding upon it. Um, I'm excited to see what happens of that. I'm excited to see where that goes. I hope we get more side stories. I hope we get more fleshed out experiences that don't necessarily have to be done by them. We mentioned it with Fallout, letting other teams work with IP, and I feel with Xbox's amount of studios now, that could happen easily in house without fear and worry. So, interested and curious to see what
Yeah.
comes of that.
Yeah, I would hope, maybe definitely good fresh start. Infinite didn't land in the way it did. It sounds like it was really because of the Slipspace engine, their own engine they built for it. They're now moving to Unreal 5. So hopefully that does help quicken things so we can get Halo more consistently as opposed to it just being here's some more skin updates and a couple modes to the multiplayer, but no story content for the campaign, none of that. It really just wrapped up. I'm really intrigued to see what they do with it. I think it is a good thing, but is it continuing the story? Do we just scrap it and just do like remakes for the original three in Unreal just to get going? And you take it from there. It's just the story of Halo is in a very, very interesting spot. I don't love the idea of a reboot. I'm not opposed to an idea of just give me a squad of Marines, of ODST, of Spartans, and during the events of Halo 2 and 3 and Reach and ODST, and you're just here doing that. That's somewhere else, Master Chief's on Halo, and we're on another planet dealing with something else, and it's its own story. That sounds great, a Helldivers style Halo game. It sounds great, or at least a mode. So we'll see if that's what the studio does, but I'm just more intrigued of what this next game is going to be. A continuation, or is it just a remaster to get going?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it just a reboot?
Or both.
Or all? Just three
Um,
different storylines going on now.
fun fact
We're
with
gonna
it.
adapt we're gonna make the TV show a game.
Oh my god.
You'll buy skins and you'll take off your armor.
You will buy skins and touch skins.
Ugh,
Uh,
Master
fun
Chiefs.
fact with Halo Infinite though. Today's December 8th. Today is the 2-year anniversary of Halo Infinite's campaign launching. Because the multiplayer
Game
was
came out
dropped.
December 8th?
Yep, the multiplayer dropped in November because they did that open beta and released it early, and then the campaign was December 8th,
Yeah,
2021.
no,
3-year
yeah, that
anniversary,
campaign
yeah,
just
not
fell
even 2.
flat. Yeah. Yeah. That's a good thing I like Halo Studios. We'll see.
Uh, as you said, fall ramped up dramatically, starting with October 8th, as we mentioned, Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred, doing good things. People love it. Hey, Diablo's in the place it should have been. Black Ops 6 release end of October. Huge. We mentioned it already. Doing great. Refocused multiplayer, refocused a campaign branching out to things that people weren't expecting and trying new ideas finally and doing more than what you would expect from a normal Call of Duty campaign. For me to varying degrees of success, but everyone seems to enjoy it for what it was more so, and I've seen more campaign talk now than ever before.
Best first person shooter campaign since Titanfall 2, in my
There
opinion.
you go. Um, Flight Sim, mentioned that already.
The
Doing
best single first person shooter campaign since Call of Duty Black Ops 6.
I could see my house from here flying over the desert.
It is the best skydiving simulator, though, because let me tell you, having people jump out of the plane as you fly it and you try not to swerve is exhilarating.
I haven't got to see that yet. That needs to be on stream.
I think I did it on stream, so you just didn't watch.
Oh damn.
Good to know. Just kidding.
Uh,
But
uh,
yeah, no, like the 1-2 punch, like Call of Duty, again, one game type of game, and then going in the flight sim. I already mentioned that. I don't need to do that again.
yeah. And then, as mentioned, Indiana Jones early access this past Friday. It is out to the world tomorrow, December 9th. Good reviews for what it is. I've seen a couple outliers that had issues and bugs and stuff that I'm curious to see if that gets patched out day one. But solid thing from Machine Games. Um,
Yeah, day one patch is already out.
oh, is it?
That's nice.
Dope.
So early access people get it, not when they started playing it, but it's ready for tomorrow. But yeah, I know it's. I was really worried about these reviews. I wasn't ready for people just to, haha, it's a 7. The game sucks. It's like that's a good game. A 7 is good. A 5 is where you start questioning games, in my opinion. That's where you're like, but maybe you really like that game. But yeah, like I'm happy this is getting 8, 9, some 10s out there. I'm excited to play through the story and just be Indiana Jones for a little bit. And again, what was it, like 15 to 20 hours? Beautiful. A little longer for some.
Yeah, it's sitting at a comfortable 86 right now, which I predicted 82 to 85, so I will take it. And it was a nice cap off to our fantasy critic this year in my victory.
Shut up.
And that's where we're at. That's been Xbox. It's been a road of ups and downs more than any other and just constant whiplash of where we're going, but output for games, where their player base is at and what they're receiving for games, first party through Game Pass, through third party support through Game Pass, like it's rock solid and it's only gonna grow up from here as studios start releasing stuff. They still have a handful that are unknown even now with their release catalog for the next few years. Still waiting on Double Fine announcement that was supposedly at the beginning of this year but disappeared. So there's still even unknowns now as we're getting excited and prepared for what's to come.
And then the GTA of it all. But yeah. No, I mean I just am so interested in what a handheld is, talking about the future. They've hinted at it. Phil has told us exactly what he wants out of a handheld, which is a very passive aggressive way of talking to the person in charge of your hardware to get them to do what you want, or it's just telling us what it's going to be. And Phil had the Series X or S just on his shelf behind him. He doesn't give a shit anymore. He's like, I'll tell you exactly what it's going to do, but I'll just say it as a want. So, I mean, I have big hopes for this handheld. It they Xbox can really make a big wave and really make a big splash with a handheld that does stuff good. It just needs to be an Xbox Steam Deck slash um, Asus ROG Ally, whatever that Asus, whatever it's called. It just need to be that, but Xbox, and have the Xbox operating system on it and have it run well, and allowed people to go to Steam. Like that would just be a winner take all device at the end of the day. I think Xbox is easily positioned to execute on that. I think that's why they're waiting for the handheld. That's why we didn't get anything this year, except just a white Series X that has a different, like, it's internally it's a little different that makes it run a little more efficiently, but other than that, it's the same console.
Yeah, for sure. With the future here, I also threw in just next gen hardware in general. We mentioned earlier they announced there's new consoles coming to a point in what those become. I was doing games just needing to hit, coming off of the Starfield kind of being lackluster and being pushed by the fans and Xbox themselves to a point as needing to be like Xbox's savior title. I hope that narrative stops because I feel that does more hindrance than good. I see that happening with Fable when that gets a release date of the conversation that this needs to be the game of the year, 10 out of 10 game Xbox needs. It doesn't. Like those days are gone. Um
No, because that doesn't like sustain Game Pass. That's their model. What sustains it is having a variety of games come out in a cadence that isn't on top of each other, but not too far spread out.
yeah. In the future here, I have one that I put a big asterisk question mark by, and if it's even a conversation we want to have. But 2025, I could honestly see being Phil Spencer's last year at Xbox. Not from negativity, not from anything, just retirement and to cap off his time there. I feel a lot of the changes that have happened have not necessarily been from him. Obviously, been higher up, Satya and whoever, but even just the new faces coming in, Sarah pushing for stuff like this, I feel like his vision of where Xbox is going or should be isn't aligning. And just this past year, just interviews and his age showing, man's 56, not too old, but when you're the head of a company, you could
A hell of a
retire.
year, though.
Yeah, you could retire at an earlier age. If it's even retirement, or if it just goes somewhere else like Shu does this year. I just
Yeah.
feel like the story of Xbox as a brand and where it's going, this is kind of building up to like a cap off of his time there. He's been in charge for 10 plus years. Again, that's a long time at any studio, any company, but in games in general, like he's been with Xbox since day one before Xbox was a brand off the ground. And I feel like with the new change in marketing, new change in business model, new change in where the brand is going, that may need a new change in leadership. Not necessarily as forced out, like I said, but just his time. I could see 2025 being it.
Yeah, I mean, it was last year or early this year that it's like became official how they restructured it, having Phil move up to CEO of Microsoft Gaming and that overseeing Xbox Game Studios, Activision Blizzard, King, Bethesda, and all of ZeniMax and whatnot. So like Phil has that top position over it all, and then he gets to go and help manage. So he is a little more removed. I could see like it does make sense. I mean, even the report from Tom Warren this week's saying like the push for the marketing of Xbox, everything's an Xbox, right? Xbox, if you can get access to the platform on your phone, your PC, your console, even your PlayStation, your Switch. If you can play an Xbox game there, it's an Xbox, and that's kind of what they're going with. That seemed to be pushed by Sarah Bond, and so yeah, there is a difference of management and where Xbox is angling that changed with her. So yeah, it would make sense for him to go, but uh, I would assume it might be after the um the next console generation. I think that would make once that's out and we're kind of like a year in, that would make sense. Like, all right, I saw that last console push out, we got it out, and now I'm gonna step out. I'm gonna step aside now that we're rolling and they're beginning the process of the next console. That would be make the most sense for me. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's sooner than later for him retiring. It's been a hell of a year. He led an acquisition multiple. He's turned the brand around, in my opinion. Uh, really changed what Xbox means, and just with Game Pass, just made it just something different, right? So I could see him wanting to go. I think he's earned a nice little payday to go, or just sit in that little role right there and kind of get the focus on what he wants while Darabon runs Xbox, while Activision is run by whoever Activision is run by. I don't remember. You know,
Yeah. It's interesting times. I'm not a Phil hater. I know a lot of people turned on him this year with everything happening. I don't think half this was due to him and above his pay grade, sadly. Just doing what he's told. Um, yeah, his story the past 10 years has been from the ground up essentially, and that Xbox One reveal and getting it to where it's at now and getting in a place where the acquisitions, love them or hate them, could happen, and being in a financially stable place to make those things happen and making the case for the brand to invest that much into it. It's foolish to me that people are like, "Oh, he's killing Xbox," when he's championing spending this much money to get Activision, to get Blizzard, to help the brand grow in a way that's unseen before. So,
Yeah. No, if anything, I think we're going to see that Phil shifted in the right direction at the right time, or it was a misalignment, you know. But I'm feeling more positive. I think he they shifted Xbox into the right angle. They were in last place. That's kind of what needs. There's like PlayStation was in last place, and then Xbox said, "We're your games are always online. We're gonna just like a PC it has a code and blah 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 blah." And then PlayStation said, "Thank you," and they took it and they course adjusted in the right way, and boom, there you go. I think Xbox is poised for that. But man, how often have we looked at that? How often has it looked like Xbox has been poised for something cool and the dominoes just aren't there? Not even that they didn't fall, they're just not there.
it's too early. Like I said, back when they were doing always online stuff, like, too early. Putting
Yeah, they
games on
messed it up
PC
how they
back
did it
then,
too.
too early.
We should do a rewatch of E3s and like talk about it. That'd be fun. I know you love to rewatch it, but we should do one day. That's
I
gonna be
just
fun though.
watched 2019 PlayStation on Tuesday this week for the fun of it. I am a psychopath. But yeah, that would be dope.
Yeah.
I
Why?
did
Why?
for the Xbox anniversary, I think. I went back and did like the 10-year one or whatever. So yeah, it'd be fun to do.
Yeah, just to see where they are now. Because like, yeah. Anyways,
With that, anything else to add in for the future? 2025 or beyond?
no, I think what you said is good. What's the handheld? Next gen hardware. Games need to hit. Yep. Games are great. They're great until they're not. And that has more often than not seemed like Xbox games do not hit. But yeah. So overall grade then. How are
I'm
you feeling?
I'm passing this one off to you to start. I said to start PlayStation, people are gonna hate me.
Oh, that's fair.
The
I think
goods,
we're in a B. I think it's a solid B.
that's
Because like it was halfway through the year that things started to hit. But once they started hitting, they hit. I feel like overall also the Xbox brand as a whole feels way more cohesive than what's happening at PlayStation right now. And Nintendo is a little secretive and a little weird anyways. They're just doing Nintendo stuff. Um, so yeah, I just feel like with everything Xbox does on the side, everything they've done this year with talking developers, showcasing developers and all that, that kind of pushes that above what they're doing as a platform, pushes it above the stuff with how they talk about their brand and platform and how they talk about the business stuff. And the questions on if Game Pass is even sustainable. Is this all gonna like in 5 years just blow up because this subscription model for games doesn't work out? We don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I feel like a lot of questionable stuff this year, really, from what they're telling us. But the last half of the year really is showing us where Xbox is going, and I feel really positive about it. And I feel better about the year as opposed to where we were going into the June showcase of like, all right, give us it.
for sure on that. Um, I was B minus. Minus mostly just due to layoffs, but again, that's an industry wide thing, but still gotta keep it into account. And a lot
I
of it,
mean, yeah, the Xbox chose to acquire Activision, right? So
yeah,
still on them that these layoffs are happening.
yeah, and a lot of it too, like we said, was just doubling of jobs, so it was bound to happen. It sucks it does still. I hope next year it's way quieter on that front. Um, yeah, it's weird to look back when you lay everything out like this, because the whole messaging online, everyone's always complaining about. I don't like where Xbox is going. I'm not certain about the future and where Xbox is as a brand. Or in reality, I'm more certain and feel more confident in Xbox than on PlayStation right now. Even just on a games front, like we said with PlayStation, there's a lot of unknowns. Not to mean that's bad, like it's a lot of cool announcements they get to make, but the next 3, 4 years, we have a layout of where Xbox is going, where their games are going to be, what's coming out. We mentioned next year's titles, the big four, but even beyond that, Gears E Day, State of Decay 3, Everwild from Rare, Double Fine's out there. It's you can almost make a layout for the next 3 years of what games are coming and that guarantee, quote unquote, that those are gonna happen. There's a layout in place that they have that we're getting peeks at. We're getting slight behind the scenes views at what's coming. They're being more upfront than ever. Like you said, when Phil does interviews about the handheld, like that's kind of weird. You don't see PlayStation coming out and being like, "Oh yeah, we're doing this thing. This is what I'd like to see from it," but without an official reveal. Like that's kind of unheard of. And being
Yeah,
upfront of, "Hey, new hardware is coming. We're doing this. We're guaranteeing this is going to happen. We have it in development already." Like that's reassurance to a level you don't get from Nintendo or PlayStation.
hmm
Which the argument can be made of they have to kind of or raise expectations and lower the worry around it with their history, but still, like that's I would rather see that than the awkward silence that we've gotten from the other two this year, personally.
for sure. Yeah, and like, hey, when you're communicating, it's not always going to be perfect communication. You're not always going to understand who you're communicating with. It's gonna have to figure it out. But that takes talking, and at least Xbox wants to fucking talk to people and just expose some of the secrets, right? With their documentaries, with how they talk, with the business meetings, how they do directs. Just they are pulling back the curtain a little bit and talking about games in a way that the other companies are not. And for some reason, Xbox, I feel, has been like criticized for that constantly because sometimes they put their foot in their mouth. Sometimes it just doesn't make sense. Sometimes they use language that is industry behind the scenes language that makes sense in a professional setting and people don't understand it and it gets twisted and it's just silly. So I do think Xbox, and I think this will be mark the beginning of Phil backing up and eventually retiring, is they will be a little more closed with stuff and be a little more specific with their things. But I think we're already seeing that with how they're doing their directs, right? They're all pre-recorded, they all have it down, and they each direct and thing they do showcase has a specific purpose, and they're nailing that purpose down really on the head with that. So yeah, I just don't think get we're gonna start seeing them be a little more quiet in that regard, which is a bummer because, yeah, like I said, it's a plus for sure.
It's weird to navigate around though, because gaming is really the only industry that's as open as it is about stuff.
Yeah.
Like movies, you don't have studio heads coming out and doing interviews like this. You don't have studio heads coming out and doing reveals, trailers like this, like Disney does to a point, but it's on a more grandiose scale in gaming that's more community focused and being upfront than other industries have to deal with. That when they do steer the course and do things a little different, it's looked at in a bad light that people aren't used to. Like I said, people don't like change. So when they're doing change too early, too fast, you're gonna get the backlash. But it's in such a unique place that other people, industries, $1 million corporations don't really have to deal with or tackle head on. Like the business meeting. Like that's was late for what it was, but that's wild that that even happened.
Yeah, I don't know why I remember people like I don't there should be no criticisms for that. Maybe you can criticize why it was even necessary. You shouldn't
Mhm.
have been in that place to begin with, but no, that's what I want from a company that I'm investing in, that I follow, that I enjoy, that I especially like games like that I play, that I invest in, like for them to just sit back and tell me exactly what to expect. Thank you. That's what's funny about, our good and bad like messaging. Like it was up and down with their messaging, but they are telling us exactly what they're doing. They just sometimes also have to have the corporate talk where it's vague.
Mhm.
Anyway,
Either way, Xbox, good job. Get a B. Get a B for the year. The wild year it's been. With
a B
that,
for back half.
yeah, good back half. Good backhand Xbox. Uh with that, new longest show record. Go us. Uh
Yeah, this is a behemoth.
yeah. Thank you guys for stopping by. If you're watching this on YouTube, we're now also on Apple Podcasts. So, oh, Blade is still coming. That was the other one I was thinking of. God, I can't wait.
Forgot about Blade.
Yeah, we're on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, pretty much almost everywhere now. You can find us each and every Sunday. We're recording live 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We will be back next week with Game Awards reactions to awards given out and announcements. I can't wait to see what
Yes.
happens. The rumor mill is definitely starting to ramp up. Should be
Yes.
exciting
Oh, we'll
times.
talk Dragon Age too, because I beat it, and I'll have my review up by then. So we'll talk about our thoughts on Dragon Age.
Be good. I'm happy I got to join the stream at the end and see the differences firsthand. Because you definitely had some people doing stuff that my people were either not there for or not doing. So
That's exciting. Yeah, I'm excited to do a little spoiler section where we can compare, because that seems like to be the best part of these BioWare games.
mhm.
One of the best parts, kind of comparing.
Again, thank you all for stopping by. This was episode 47. If you like the show, drop a follow. Follow us on the socials. They're on main screen. Kyle the Fish 30 on Twitter and Twitch. Badlands Backlog is everywhere for me. We will catch you guys same time, same place next week. Happy gaming.
Bye.